The Chernobyl disaster occurred on April 26, 1986, at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the Soviet Union, in what is now northern Ukraine. The catastrophe began during a late-night safety test on reactor number 4. Operators shut down key safety systems to simulate a power outage scenario, but the test was poorly designed and carried out by inadequately trained staff. This caused the reactor to become unstable. A sudden power surge triggered explosions that destroyed the reactor core and blew the massive steel and concrete lid off the reactor building. The blast released enormous amounts of radioactive materials into the atmosphere, making it the worst nuclear power accident in history. The radiation released included iodine-131, cesium-137, and strontium-90, all highly dangerous to human health and the environment. In the immediate aftermath, 2 workers died on the night of the explosion, and within weeks, 28 more died from acute radiation sickness, which occurs when high doses of radiation damage the body's internal organs. Hundreds of thousands of emergency responders, called liquidators, were sent to contain the disaster. They worked in extremely hazardous conditions, often with minimal protective gear. To limit further release of radioactive particles, the destroyed reactor was enclosed in a hastily built concrete structure called the sarcophagus. The disaster forced the evacuation of more than 100,000 people from the nearby city of Pripyat and surrounding areas. The radiation contamination spread across Europe, detected as far as Sweden and the United Kingdom. Long-term health effects remain debated, but the United Nations estimates thousands of thyroid cancer cases and other illnesses were linked to the disaster. Large areas around Chernobyl remain uninhabitable today, forming what is known as the exclusion zone. The incident revealed the dangers of nuclear energy when poorly managed and exposed flaws in Soviet secrecy, as the government initially tried to conceal the disaster from the public and the world. The Titanic was a British passenger liner that sank on its maiden voyage in April 1912, becoming one of the most infamous maritime disasters in history. Built by the White Star Line, the Titanic was the largest ship in the world at the time and was advertised as unsinkable due to its advanced design. It featured watertight compartments and remotely operated doors, which were meant to prevent flooding from spreading. However, these measures were not sufficient against the kind of damage it ultimately sustained. On the night of April 14, 1912, while traveling from Southampton to New York City, the ship struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic. The iceberg punctured several of the vessel's compartments along its starboard side. The design flaw was that the watertight bulkheads did not extend high enough. As water flooded one compartment after another, the ship's bow became too heavy and pulled the rest of the vessel down. Within about 2.5 hours, the Titanic broke apart and sank beneath the ocean. Out of more than 2,200 passengers and crew, over 1,500 lost their lives. One of the main reasons for the high death toll was the insufficient number of lifeboats. The ship carried only about 20 lifeboats, enough for roughly half the people on board. Compounding the issue, not all lifeboats were filled to capacity during evacuation. The victims of the Titanic came from all walks of life, from wealthy first-class passengers to immigrants in third class seeking a new life in America. Rescue efforts were conducted by the RMS Carpathia, which arrived hours later and saved about 700 survivors. The tragedy prompted widespread changes in maritime safety regulations. The International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, established in 1914, required sufficient lifeboats for all passengers, continuous radio communications, and regular lifeboat drills. The Titanic disaster remains a symbol of human overconfidence in technology and the catastrophic consequences of inadequate safety planning. The September 11, 2001 attacks, often referred to as 9/11, were a coordinated terrorist operation carried out by 19 members of Al-Qaeda against the United States. On the morning of September 11th, 4 commercial passenger airplanes were hijacked shortly after takeoff. 2 of these planes, American Airlines Flight 11 and United Airlines Flight 175, were flown directly into the north and south towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. The impacts caused massive fires that weakened the steel structures, leading both towers to collapse within hours. A third plane, American Airlines Flight 77, was flown into the Pentagon, the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense, in Arlington, Virginia. The fourth plane, United Airlines Flight 93, was headed toward Washington, D.C., but passengers fought back against the hijackers, causing it to crash into a field in Pennsylvania instead. The human toll of 9/11 was catastrophic. Nearly 3,000 people were killed, including passengers, first responders, and civilians in the targeted buildings. Thousands more were injured, and long-term health problems developed among survivors and rescue workers exposed to toxic dust and debris at Ground Zero. Beyond the immediate loss of life, the attacks had far-reaching consequences. They revealed vulnerabilities in airline security as hijackers exploited weaknesses in cockpit access and passenger screening. In response, sweeping changes were made to airport security procedures, including the creation of the Transportation Security Administration, TSA. Politically and globally, the attacks triggered the US-led war on terror. The United States invaded Afghanistan in October 2001 to dismantle Al-Qaeda and remove the Taliban from power. Later, in 2003, the US also invaded Iraq, citing links to terrorism and weapons of mass destruction, though these justifications remain controversial. The impact of 9/11 extended into foreign policy, domestic surveillance, immigration controls, and military strategies worldwide. It stands as one of the most devastating tragedies in modern history, reshaping global politics and security in profound and lasting ways. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki took place in August 1945 during the final days of World War II. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped the first atomic bomb, codenamed Little Boy, on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The bomb exploded about 600 meters above the city, unleashing the equivalent of around 15,000 tons of TNT. The blast instantly flattened buildings within a 2-kilometer radius and generated intense heat and radiation. It is estimated that 70,000 to 80,000 people died immediately, with tens of thousands more suffering severe burns and injuries. In the following weeks, thousands succumbed to radiation sickness, a condition caused by the body absorbing large doses of ionizing radiation. 3 days later, on August 9th, a second bomb, codenamed Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki. This bomb was more powerful, with the explosive force of about 21,000 tons of TNT. However, Nagasaki's hilly terrain reduced the overall destruction compared to Hiroshima. Still, around 40,000 people died instantly, and the death toll rose to more than 70,000 by the end of 1945 due to burns, injuries, and radiation effects. Survivors of the bombings, known as hibakusha, faced long-term health consequences, including cancer, chronic illnesses, and genetic damage passed to future generations. The bombings forced Japan to surrender on August 15, 1945, bringing World War II to an end. However, they also introduced the world to the devastating power of nuclear weapons. The decision to use the bombs has been debated ever since. Supporters argue it ended the war quickly and saved lives that would have been lost in a prolonged invasion of Japan. Critics emphasize the humanitarian toll and question whether Japan was already close to surrender. The events of Hiroshima and Nagasaki reshaped international relations, leading to the nuclear arms race of the Cold War and decades of global debate about the morality and danger of atomic warfare. The Rwandan genocide occurred over the course of 100 days in 1994 and was one of the most brutal massacres of the late 20th century. The violence stemmed from long-standing ethnic tensions between two groups, the Hutu majority and the Tutsi minority. For decades, political and social divisions had been fueled by colonial policies and post-independence power struggles. The immediate trigger for the genocide came on April 6, 1994, when the plane carrying Rwanda's president, Juvenal Habyarimana, a Hutu, was shot down. His death created a power vacuum and unleashed a wave of organized killings by extremist Hutu militias and civilians. Within hours, roadblocks and lists of targeted individuals were set up, and massacres began across the country. Tutsi men, women, and children were hunted down in their homes, schools, and churches. Neighbors often turned against neighbors. The violence was carried out not only by soldiers and militias like the Interahamwe, but also by ordinary citizens incited by propaganda. Weapons such as machetes and clubs were commonly used, making the killings especially gruesome. By July 1994, an estimated 800,000 people, mostly Tutsis and moderate Hutus, had been murdered. The genocide ended when the Rwandan Patriotic Front, a Tutsi-led rebel group under Paul Kagame, defeated the government forces and took control of the country. In the aftermath, Rwanda faced devastation. Millions were displaced, infrastructure was destroyed, and the population was traumatized. The international community was widely criticized for failing to intervene. United Nations forces present in Rwanda at the time were restricted in their ability to stop the killings, and major powers avoided labeling the events as genocide until it was too late. The Rwandan genocide remains a stark example of how political manipulation, ethnic hatred, and global inaction can combine to produce catastrophic human tragedy. The Holocaust was the systematic, state-sponsored persecution and murder of 6 million Jews by Nazi Germany and its collaborators during World War II. From 1933, when Adolf Hitler came to power, anti-Jewish laws and propaganda spread across Germany, portraying Jews as enemies of the state. This discrimination escalated into violence, with events such as Kristallnacht in 1938, when Jewish businesses, synagogues, and homes were destroyed. Once World War II began, the Nazi regime expanded its campaign across occupied Europe, targeting not only Jews, but also Romani people, disabled individuals, political dissidents, homosexuals, and others deemed undesirable. The genocide reached its peak between 1941 and 1945. Jews were rounded up and deported to ghettos and concentration camps. In these camps, conditions were inhumane, with overcrowding, starvation, forced labor, and rampant disease. The Nazis also established extermination camps, such as Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Sobibor, where mass killings were carried out using gas chambers designed for efficiency. Victims were transported to these sites by train, often under the pretense of resettlement, only to be killed upon arrival. Those not immediately murdered were subjected to forced labor, medical experiments, and brutal treatment. The Holocaust was executed with industrial precision, combining bureaucracy, propaganda, and technology to facilitate mass murder. By the end of the war, in 1945, 2/3 of Europe's Jewish population had been annihilated. Liberation of the camps by Allied forces revealed the scale of the atrocities, shocking the world. The Holocaust not only devastated Jewish communities, but also left an indelible mark on history as a warning of the dangers of unchecked hatred, authoritarianism, and indifference. In its aftermath, international laws against genocide were strengthened, and the phrase, "never again," became a global call to prevent such crimes in the future. If this blew your mind, wait until you see what's next.